All right, here we go. Welcome, J4 community and family. This is a subscribers edition only. Thank you guys so much for joining in and for really taking a moment to give me some honest feedback, some perspective, kind of why you joined the channel, how it may have some relevancy to you, and more importantly, as we continue on our journey, how we can make improvements. So, first of all, thank you. If one of the suggestions was a microphone check, we have that. I got me a microphone last couple of days. I had two, but for some reason they went out, so I decided to get another one and get sort of up my technology game. So if that was one of the improvements, check that off the list. I really want to take a moment to say thank you to you guys. It's been a wonderful journey in the J4 conversation space. It has taken some twists and some turns. And so, in part, I wanted to pause a moment and get to know the subscribers a little bit. Certainly would like more and more engagement just to make it kind of a talkative kind of conversation, particularly with parents of beautiful Black sons and daughters and parents of biracial children, which has been kind of a new emphasis on the page for reasons that I'll go into in a moment. But I do want to say that I got this ideal for feedback. I got this ideal for feedback from the Lead Attorneys Masterclass. I'm a part of the Lead Attorneys Masterclass. He seems to be a very genuine brother, blowing up in sort of the YouTube space. But one of his sort of pillar personality traits is to give back in genuine, sincere ways, and to help YouTube creators grow their channel. And he offers strategies, offers content in the space of growing your channel. And more recently, he did a show where he's looking at some of the people in the masterclass, looking at their channel and having the group offer feedback. And I said, that's a profound thing. And while it's important to have feedback from fellow content creators, I thought, well, why don't I go out to the subscribers who have subscribed to the channel, which has shown some interest in some kind of capacity, and just get some feedback directly from them on why they joined, what topics are particularly of interest to them, and more importantly, as a collective community going forward, how can we grow and what can we improve upon? So let's go ahead and acknowledge Dr. Went, our number one ambassador. I have missed this place, space, and dialogue. We've been here, Doc. We've been here. You must be busy getting ready for classes and all those kind of things. Certainly understand that. So today, the format I'd like to go by, and thank you for being here, Dr. Wynn. I definitely want your feedback. So if you're willing, let me know where you're from in the chat. That's low-level disclosure, but I do want to get a chance to know you. I'm a biracial kid, born to a French European mother, a Black Creole father from New Orleans by way of Gary, Indiana. I was born in Illinois and then grew up primarily in the military environment. So we moved every 3 years, ended up going to high school in Vegas, and then went to college in Arizona and have been here since then. So if you're willing, let me know where you're from. I'm not seeking to get up into your business, but just want to meet you and definitely want to get your feedback. The aim of the channel is to have more dialogue and more engagement. It's one thing for me to kind of run my mouth and have a few comments here and there, and all that's cool. It's a part of the growth process. But I really want to offer some commentary to sort of set the stage up front, to kind of build out the foundation of the conversation, and then to open it up for communication and conversation, because the ultimate aim of the channel, beautiful folks, is to raise healthy, grounded, solid, rooted, independent children. There's too many of children in our communities that are born in single parent situations, and we know the implication that that has on their growth and their development, and ultimately the cycle of possibly producing more and more single parent home children in their own, because that's what they've been exposed to. Healthy families are rooted in functional families. Functional families are often rooted in two-parent homes. Shout out to single moms and single dads who are raising children on their own. I know it can be a work of joy, a parenting path of joy, but I also know it has struggles. As a father of 6 children, raising them with a wife, I couldn't imagine doing that solo dolo. So much respect to single parents out there, single moms, shout out to you. But the aim of this channel is to talk about parenting strategies and acknowledging identity politics and dynamics in the modern era that affects how beautiful young people come of age. And so if you're willing to, let me know where you're from in the chat. I see Cordero Holmes. Good to see you, brother. I'm a Toho Tano black man, and subscribe to your channel because I'm biracial. Beautiful, beautiful. Let me put you up here on the main stage. I see you, Cadero. Good looking, good looking. All right. So I will pose questions along the way. Okay. Your feedback is welcomed. And at the end, we can open it up for questions or statements by way of constructive feedback. I have relatively thick skin. I'm the one that set this in motion. So I definitely want your feedback. So the first question I want to pose to you is why or what video caused you to subscribe to the channel? If it was the channel sentiments of the channel, then that's fine. But if there was a particular video that sparked your interest, that allowed you to let me intrude into your technological device and pop up every now and then, I would certainly like to know that. Because I'm seeking to understand which path introduced you to J4 Conversations. Which path introduced you to J4 Conversations? And I say which path because there were two. There were two paths that are primarily attempting to merge within the J4 Conversation space. In the beginning, some 2 years ago, in the midst of COVID, Gene, who was the father counterpart, came to me and said, "Hey, I'd like to develop something by way of competency development for my son." And I said, "Well, hey, I also have a son the same age, starting college. Why don't we take some time in this pandemic space and create a conversation between two fathers and two sons around various themes and subject matter that we think would be important to them in their sort of coming of age process?" And for much of the first year, that's kind of what we did. And it was an exercise of joy, an exercise of fun time with the sons, with the seeds, and then also a chance for Gene and I to expand our relationship. We've been peoples for over almost 3 decades, but it gave us a chance to go deeper, all with the intention of conversation with our boys that we hope we could share outward, that other fathers, other mothers could then share with their sons and daughters, and then have dialogue and conversation around it. We don't profess expertise. We just simply profess life lived. I'm 54 years old, again, a father of 6 kids, and Gene is a early 50s father of 2 children. And so we have life lived to share. And it was a project of joy. Then, beautiful family, life hit, college hit, return to work hit, a lot in the collegiate athletic space where we work, that hit, and J4 Conversation became J1 Conversations, J1 Conversations. As you can imagine, the boys got busy within the college space and joining organizations. JB3 is a student athlete. That definitely takes up a lot of his time. Elias J, my son, became heavily involved in leadership, fraternity organizations, those kind of things. And then Gene, who's a senior level administrator within a Big Five collegiate athletic program, he became intensely busy. And I got busy as well, but my time is a little bit different. My time was a little bit different because I'm an empty nest, y'all. Old man is an empty nest. Took my last one to college a couple weeks back. And so I have a new time configuration. As a father, I spent a lot of time and joy watching my beautiful seeds in their activities and events that they were engaged in. But now that doesn't occur anymore. And so I needed to be constructive as to what I wanted to do with my time. So I continue down the road of J4 Conversation content, even though it's largely been J1. And we'll cycle back. I'm sure there'll be some cameo experiences here and there. But this is what happened. Here's where the other path came in. And thank you guys for listening in. If you're just joining us, welcome. This is a feedback show, a feedback on areas that you enjoy, that drew you to the channel, and a conversation collectively about the future direction of the channel, because I'm kind of at a crossroads, y'all. I'm a little bit at a crossroads as to what I want to sort of take on. So in late November 2021, about 8 months ago, 9 months specifically, Gene and I did a session called White Mothers and Their Biracial Black Sons. And the thing did well initially. By January, we had a couple hundred views here and there. But something happened within the algorithm. Something happened within the algorithm, and it got picked up. It got picked up. In May, it started getting some traction, a little over 1,000 views in this one particular video. I still don't know exactly what was the appeal. Maybe in the comments, you can tell me what was the appeal of that particular thumbnail and title that made you click it and indulge it and engage it. But then June through August, remember in May we had around 1,100 views. In June through August, this thing had over 34,000 views. So in my world, or in the level of video views in this space, that was a viral. It was an anomaly. Gave me good, warm, fuzzy feelings just waking up and seeing all this comment and all these views. And as a YouTube creator, you want to create content that does have interest in an unknown audience, because that's what the YouTube space is. It's unknown kind of folks in the space. And so through August, which was 3 weeks ago, it had hit over 34,000 and should be pretty close to 35,000 soon. So let me pause there right quick. What video or why did you subscribe to the channel? Cordero, you offered that you are biracial yourself. So I'm imagining the biracial element is of interest to you. I don't know if that is coupled with parenting or if it's just kind of the biracial stuff, but that's a part of my questioning. So now it's tempering off. And when you have a video that goes viral, that's not exactly within your niche audience, that's a good thing, but it can also throw off the continuity. It can also throw off the audience. And that's kind of what I'm dealing with right now, trying to understand the core audience and what direction I ought to take the channel. There was a high response, over 700 comments. Some of them were appreciative of Gina sharing our journey through biracialness into Blackness. And I discovered very quickly that the modern biracial mindset and Black mindset, there's a proportionality of the populace that are saying biracial kids are not Black culturally. Biracially, they're mixed, but culturally, they're not. And that was a phenomenon to me. It was fascinating. I had thought of no other pathway as a biracial kid born in 1968 that I was going to pathway to a Blackness. But now today, young people are, perhaps rightfully so, challenging that notion for various arguments and articulations. But you also have Black folk who are saying biracial folks aren't culturally Black. And there's some tension there. There's some playfulness there. But it is a very interesting kind of dynamic. And because there was high response and high controversy, which is, a part of the energy and dynamics of a YouTube page where you want interaction and engagement, but it resulted in over 5,000 watch hours and over 400 subscribers. So these were new audiences, over 5,000 watch hours and 400 subscribers. Now, if you understand something about the monetization requirements for a YouTube page, it's 4,000 watch hours over the course of 12 months and over 1,000 subscribers at any time. If you have those two combinations, you're then in the monetization phase. Now, admittedly, I didn't start this channel with a monetary goal at the end, but as this thing continues to get traction, as the old man thinks about early retirement, I certainly wouldn't mind getting to the threshold of above 1,000 subscribers, continue to build the watch hours, and just see where the channel goes. But in order to do that, I need to understand something about you. I need to understand something about the audience, right? The one that went viral, it had some controversy in it. It had some craziness in it. It had some sensationalism in it. But it also had some very unique and interesting commentary, things that I think certainly are worth exploring. But I have a caution in that. But nonetheless, I decided to ride the wave, y'all. I decided to ride the biracial wave. Okay, I was YouTube pimping. So what I would do is I would think of ways to integrate biracial subject matter into a parenting dynamic, and but because it was such a shock to me, this vehemency, this loud voice in the space of that biracial kids aren't Black, I decided to say, well, what would it actually take? What would it actually take for a biracial community to stand independently onto itself? And the responses were good. The numbers, the viewerships were good. The engagement was good. The controversy was it was still high, which was, that's a par of the course. But I also still continued to do just parent content, and the response was poor. The response was poor, right? My page was changing. I like this. It's me. I subscribe because I'm looking for real solutions. It's me. Could you tell me to real solutions in the parenting space, the biracial, Black cultural space? If you could build a little bit more on that, I'd greatly appreciate it. So my page was changing. When I did biracial centric stuff, response was good, controversy was there, opinions, engagement. That was joyful to kind of facilitate, but controversial. I did just parenting content, just dads kind of chopping it up. Good space, good community among men. Poor response, poor viewership, limited content. And then I tried to strike a sort of a medium balance. I tried to strike a balance. Still parenting themed, but adding Black and biracial in the title, right? Putting Black and biracial in the title. Got a decent response, some kind of feedback, but nowhere near the level when I was dealing almost exclusively with biracial content. And so I did it's me says parenting socially future insight. Okay, appreciate that. So you're kind of here because of the parenting component. Beautiful, beautiful. Does the Black and biracial piece resonate with you, or is it just parenting broadly? Definitely interested in your feedback there. My the second, I think I got to elevate this brother to the second ambassador, Dr. Wynn. He hasn't quite taken your seat just yet, but Mulatto Vanguard has been kind of riding with me in this biracial conversation. In fact, much of his comments and coming up on the show has challenged my thinking in the space of modern biracial identity, because he himself has went through his own cultural journey, has landed in a biracial space. And so he's been a wonderful sounding board for me. Appreciate you, Mulatto. So Mulatto, we're asking, what drew you to the channel? Was it the theme of it? Was it a particular video? And we're just now getting some feedback. Again, thank you guys for joining in. This is the feedback show, subscribers only. How can this channel improve and have greater relevancy to your life? So I did a post recently. That's one of the benefits of having 500 subscribers in the YouTube world. You can post comments like you would in social media, like text and posts. So I did a post, and this is what I asked: what content appeals to you most? And then I offered three options rather. Parenting content, is that what appeals to you most? Biracial content, is that what appeals to you most? Or is it some combination of both? Right? Some combination of both. All right. Dr. Wynn says, it's all good. I welcome that. Yes, I welcome that. For this channel to grow and, be able to have some relevancy in the parenting space and the identity space, which I think is intertwined with parenting, it's going to take folks to kind of chime in and warm up. And I think that's the moderator's responsibility. That's my responsibility, to create a space and creative kind of questions where people will want to find relevancy and come on out and hang out and devote valuable time to this process. I will say up front, I don't want to be a shock channel. At the end of the day, the grounding foundation is helping us produce grounded, healthy, solid, independent people, and particularly children. All right. So we got some folks up in here. Let me make some acknowledgments. Mulatto Vanguard and It's Me know each other. Beautiful. Hey, J4, I'll catch the playback. Nice to hear you. Abby, thank you so much. Good to see you, age counterpart. Abby, when you go back through it, should you, please answer the questions by way of the feedback. We'll love your feedback as someone is in sort of my age set. All right. Yeah, It's Me says he's interested in the parenting, the social dynamics, future insight from the Black-white perspective. All right, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So if you all could answer for those listening in who perhaps didn't answer the question, what content appeals to you most? Parenting content, biracial content, or is it both? Some combination where we're talking to raising Black and biracial kids. Okay. So it would appear, so from the poll, 8 responses, so not huge, certainly not scientific, wouldn't pass any peer review. But if it appears that there's a greater interest in biracial content, it appears there's a greater interest in biracial content. And I believe that has something to do with kind of what's going on in these YouTube streets. There's a contingency of beautiful young biracial kids not kids, young people, adults who have a community unto themselves. They go through various phases of conflict and praise and joy and embrace, and it kind of ebbs and flows, but they're finding voice. They're finding voice in this technological space, and they're having conversations about identity, about gatekeeping that they've experienced within Black spaces. And I think this group has somehow found the channel and have brought energy to it, and so I think that's also influencing the kind of the nuance there. All right, let's see. Biracial content specific to identity and how monoracial parents should help foster their identity. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So the poll said parenting content 25%, biracial content 50%, both 25%. So there is not a high interest, at least from those who responded, in just exclusively parenting content. And I will admit parenting content is sort of the lowest energy point of the subject matter. But if you add in the element of culture and race, that there's a greater interest there. Okay. So let's assume going forward, J4 subscribers, and I thank you for that, truly do. If we stay within parenting biracial Black beautiful children, strategies, advice, tips, confessions, testimonials, what type of topics would you like to see in the biracial space? What type of topics would you like to see in the parenting biracial space? What type of topics would you like to see in the parenting Black and biracial kids space? Because what I don't want, beautiful folks, is to pit Black against biracial. That's not my lane. That's not my truth. That's not my passion. That's not my purpose. That's not my intent. That's not my role. I won't participate in any belittling of any cultural community. I won't for personal gain and whatever point out the deficiencies that are in any particular culture. I'd rather stay my lane, which is in Black male development, biracial male development, acknowledging the beauty and complexity that is all of us. And I'm not interested in engaging sort of this budding civil war between biracial folks and monolithic Black folks. That's not my interest. And so I don't want to sort of trend or get salacious for energy and views and participation. But I do want to acknowledge that biracial identity is emerging in different ways than it had in previous kinds of generations. And I do want to acknowledge that Black folks are continuing to grow and grapple with societal kinds of issues. And I also acknowledge that within our community, Black and biracial, that we have a disproportionate percentage of babies born to single parent homes above any kind of race. And I want to have played some significant small part in attempting to address that by talking to future fathers about protection, choosing to bring a child into life out of planning and not passion, and that it's important that once they're born out of preparation, that we are also intentional in the parenting section about that. All right. Dr. Wentz says, I enjoy talking about identity and, of course, selfishly kind of a parenting that the biracial content is something parents continue to navigate, the white mother to a Black son. He got pulled over for the first time, and I can tell you he was not treated as a biracial person. He was treated as a Black male. And although it ended well, it was not a pleasant experience for him or I. So while he or others see themselves as biracial, the police officer do not. Okay. So your son had sort of that nefarious rites of passage for young men of color, where they engage a police officer and it goes not quite as smoothly as both mama and the young person would hope and that there's actual opportunity for instruction, right? What do we encourage our boys, our Black boys and our biracial boys to do should they encounter the police officer, not knowing what the caliber or character of the officer is? I'm sure there's countless interactions, ticket distributed, and people go on their way, or perhaps it gets a little escalated, or perhaps there's a little undertone of disrespect, and it's kind of playing itself out. Countless stops on countless streets across the nation, all going in different kinds of ways. What are the role of the young person in that? What is the strategy in terms of trying to de-escalate that? Although that's crazy that has to fall upon the beautiful young person. So, Dr. Went, thank you. It sounds like you're interested in both the parenting, and in this case of a biracial, beautiful son and daughters. I would also like to believe that whether you're Black, biracial, or white, Asian, Native, Tana Autumn, whatever the case may be, that the themes of parenting that we talk about, from Maslow to puberty to the warrior class, all have application to the age set of children. I do want to keep it within a cultural kind of space, because that's where my passion, my work is, and that's also where the children, my children, the space they're in, and ultimately my grandparents. All right. That's great to hear. Too much drama within the division of Black versus biracial. Yeah, it's me. I don't know if you're a part of that golden sphere, and I absolutely hope that it would just transition from its anger phase, its conflict phase, and that sober heads and minds will have gotten that out their system, and they'll begin to strategize as to what their next direction would be, whether that's legislatively or lobbying or celebratory or whatever the case may be. Mulatto Vanguard talked about, it was the 9 criteria, indeed, with the generational nuance, that the video was appealing to him in terms of having him subscribe to the channel. That was, and we did a collaborative on his space, his channel, about what criteria would it take for a biracial community to sort of bolster itself and make a case for a unique identity. I think that's fascinating. I was musing with the subject matter. Much of it already exists. There's a couple of things that don't. But if the community feels that its numbers warrant a unique cultural experience and exploration, and there's the fortitude and will, I just say and always ask that you sort of break from a cultural mother home with grace, with reflection, and you move on about your own cultural business. So I don't begrudge that. All right. So those are the questions I wanted to ask. What type of topics would you like to see in the biracial space? I don't know if I had any answers to that. But what I want to do now is I want to open the floor up to see if there's any questions. And I will put the link in there should anyone want to come up. Again, this is the J4 Conversations feedback show. My channel changed from its initial intent, where two dads were chopping it up about life. I won't say it changed, but it had an asterisk by it. When we started the show 2 years ago, we weren't thinking anything about biracial. We were just talking to our boys and then offering competency content, again, not from a space of expertise, but just life lived. And, putting some gems and learning moments into our 18-year-olds' ears and eyes, and at the same time setting back and learning from them and their journey. It wasn't until just a kind of me and Gene musing on white mothers and their biracial Black sons that this thing caught the algorithm and went viral. Over 34,000 views and 400 new subscribers. And subscribers who weren't necessarily here for the parenting space were here, I think, because of that particular title. White mothers, right? Biracial Black sons. It was that biracial Black that many of the comments took issue with, stating that you cannot be biracial and Black at the same time. And so it was fascinating to me. In all transparency, to get that kind of energy, I had to keep riding the subject matter. And so there's been a turn, there's been a shift, but I want to stay integrity and keep my integrity with the channel about raising grounded, healthy, beautiful, grounded children with a particular emphasis on sons. I see interest in the biracial space, but I want to grow. I want this channel to have relevancy, which quite frankly is going to take some participation. It's going to take some questions. It's going to take some critique of whatever my monologue is. And so I haven't quite found that transition. I think people were there for, the element of commentary, the sensationalism, the banter of it. I was glad the video provided that format, but I want to shift now to, being relevant to parents' journeys and Black and biracial young people kind of coming of age. But that's going to take some creative thinking on my part, both in the two major factors that draw a person to be a part of a channel, to be a part of a conversation, to click on something. That's the thumbnails. If you all are looking at thumbnails, I'd love to know which thumbnail stood out for you, so I can kind of incorporate some of those designs. That's what catches the random viewer's eyes to see if it's of appeal to them. And then finally, the title. The title is also something that draws appeal. So I need to do some better work in that space, both in the creativity of the visual thumbnail and in creativity of the title, to have folks express interest. And then, of course, once they get in the space, that they find the content relevant to their life and worthy of whatever 30 minutes or hour that they would devote to it. And so this is about your feedback. I'm going to open it up for your feedback. I got Mulatto Vanguard on the back in the green room. I'm going to pull him up here in a minute. But please, those of y'all listening in, I see some new folks coming in. I need your feedback. I need your feedback on what do you enjoy, what's meaningful to you in the page. What are some areas we can improve? What are some subject matter, particularly in parenting Black and biracial children with an emphasis on boys? Let me know that. This is the time to do that. I've asked for it. Be direct, be forthright, and let's collectively get this page a little bit better. All right, Mulatto, I'm going to pull you up in a minute, but let me see what Dr. Wynn is saying. What does it mean to be biracial in 2022 versus 5, 10, 20 years ago? Beautiful. Yeah, I just did a piece on, what did I call it? Proximity, biracial proximity to Blackness. And I talked about biracial proximity to Blackness in the pre-modern era, and I'm using the decade of 60s as a sort of middle period and new sentence beginning. Pre-60s decades, what was the proximity of biracialness to Blackness? Meaning, how did they bond? How did they glue? 60s, a very tumultuous, high achieving, significant historical decade. And then the modern era was 60s going forward. And I talked about the different relationship that biracial has to Blackness in the 60s and the difference that it is here in the 20th century, and how that is perhaps some of the groundwork and some of the identity conflation that we have at the moment. All right. Can you bring clarity to people, the difference between race, ethnicity, and culture, and how all three are tied together within Black America? I don't think people understand you can be both Black and biracial, right? That seems very logical to me, right? Certainly, one born, their birth circumstances is racially, to be rhetorically literal, but culturally, right? Assuming you have cultural content, cultural heritage, one could pick a particular culture. It could be a biracial culture, which is immersion. One could sort of lean white and been raised that way, or one could certainly, as in my circumstances, be raised culturally Black. All right. I want to make a note of that. It's me for future conversation between race, ethnicity, and culture. Might even add nationality to that. You got nation, you got heritage in some cases, you got race. Then within race, when you have such large numbers and you got to break down, they then have another subset, which is often articulated within ethnicity. But within all of that, you have different cultural nuances, which is largely tied to history, geography, and relationship to a dominant or minority society. So I like that. Thank you for that. All right, Mulatto, come on in.
Hey, brother, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. By the way, I got a new microphone. How am I sounding? Am I echoing? Am I popping?
No, it sounds crisp. It sounds good, better than me. I need to get a new microphone, actually.
Yeah. As you continue to post, man, you got to get your microphone game on. Mulatto,
You could tell, yeah, the quality. I mean, the equipment I'm using is not the best at the moment, but the production value will increase over time for sure. Because I'm obviously still new to this type of thing, right? I've only been doing this for like 8 weeks, roughly or so, but I'm learning a lot. Yeah.
Right. I'm a part of why I'm doing this feedback show is because I'm a part of a mastermind YouTube group that the lead attorney
Oh
was
yeah.
kind of a kind of a big a bigger YouTuber in the space,
Yeah.
and the feedback show was a concept that he was doing internally, and I said, hey, I don't really know my subscribers. I know Dr. Went. I'm getting to know you a little bit better, a couple of other folks, my dad included, but we got 620 some subscribers, and I want to get to know them, or develop a core group where we can build and learn and sort of collectively challenge each other. Mulatto, what's going on, man? What's on your spirit? What's on your heart? Thank you for coming up.
Yeah, just another day in paradise. A lot of things have been happening. A pretty stressful week for myself. There's
Mm,
kind of been a smear slander campaign against me, so I've been trying to kind of balance that out and reestablish, I don't know, some integrity, or I
yeah.
don't know, I wouldn't say integrity, but reestablish kind of my position of my platform, what I'm doing, my whole philosophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is essentially advocacy for those of us who are mulatto or black, white, biracial. Because there,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, there's a hunger. When I spoke to you a month or two ago, there's a hunger for this kind of content. There's not that much of it out here, and so that's what kind of drew me to the online space to look to kind of search for answers. So we need this kind of content, and I think because you're older, you have a lot of lived experience, you can definitely offer a lot of useful insight to those of us who are younger. But like I told you, I think the generational nuance is kind of a key component and where a lot of differences are in our kind of direction of how we see things. But I'm definitely for pushing for like a space for biracial black white people to kind of share their experiences, tell their stories. And like many people, the first video I saw was the one that you have with your friend, the other gentleman, which was
Mm-hmm.
white mothers and their biracial black sons. So that video is doing really well in the algorithm, right?
Right.
So that's what kind of drew me to your channel initially.
Well, I appreciate you popping in. Much respect for your journey. Just take a level up and to be a bit more macro, not just to yourself, but anyone listening in. Identity can have controversy built into it. You then throw in, just whatever the trend of the day is, coupled with youthful exuberance in some cases, not to old man the situation, but if those of you all are committed to causes and are clear about your purpose, man, just stay on course, man. Stay with your purpose, stay on your mission, and engage, your aid set in your community as you see appropriate. But does it, I would always ask the question, does it help to get derailed? Right? Does it help to get derailed and stay your course, beautiful folks, whatever that course is? There's going to be controversy. I've had controversy in my comments. I've had some choice words thrown at whatever I represented to the people looking in. Right? I know they don't know me personally beyond whatever that hour shared, and so there's a little bit of kind of let it roll off you. Now I know there's a point where it can get personally intense, and you got to deal with it at that particular point. But broader picture, if you're committed to causes and movements, stay the course. Stay the course. There'll always be counter voices and counter opinions and perspective, and it certainly can be stressful and unsettling. But does it advance your course? Right? Does it advance your course? I know there's more nuance there, but just a broader message to YouTubers out there trying to do significant work without sort of the fame and salacious entertainment value to it. Beautiful, Mulatto.
Yeah, most definitely. It's all learning experience for me as well, right? And I think the kind of the tricky thing is like moving into some of these spaces, there's a lot of toxicity there. So it's kind of just finding my own kind of network of individuals that I can kind of work and build with. I think is key for me right now, kind of keeping my circle small and just like you said, focusing on the mission and the agenda and not getting derailed by a lot of the controversy that's going to be thrown around. Yeah, man, it's difficult stuff, but that's kind of the part of life, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm a little young. Well, I'm a lot younger than you, about a couple decades, but I'm definitely trying to keep a level head and stay positive.
Yeah, yeah. And from younger years, things are intense in one moment and then they pass and they pause and you realize that wow, that was a lot of I was feeling something at the moment, but you at some point will transcend that. But even in the moment of tenseness and in moments of calm, stay the course. Stay the course, beautiful YouTube family. Darren Chapman did an interview with Darren Chapman. He's a father of children, biracial as well. He's a dynamic individual. We had a chance to chop it up. He says, "Amen, brother, stay the course. Amen, brother, stay the course." Mulatto, what would you see value in? I know you're not a parent, so there's obviously sort of incidental interest maybe in the future parenting conversation that might be here, but when it comes to perhaps biracial content, then we talked about the 9 criteria. I've done some other things that you've offered commentary on, but are there some broader questions or themes that would be of interest to you just from a 21st century biracial individual? Because there's two nuances. One is the grown biracial, as in the case of what you represent, and you're going through newness and identity formation. But then there's also the soon to be born biracial child. And as we know, 17% of interracial marriages in the 20th century, this continuing to grow, are going to produce more and more biracial children. In 2010, there was about 9,000 biracial human beings. In 2020, that's 33.8 million. So that number is going to grow. So there's also a conversation about parenting biracial kids, but also what topics do you think would be interest to biracial children if you have any specificity there?
Yeah, I think it's like developing a space, developing a space for them, for the youth, trying to find ways for like advocacy and networking. So I think that's essential, is developing a space for them so that they can kind of galvanize and share their experiences. That's one of the big things that I see could be helpful, in my opinion. But then also rediscovering history and kind of tying ourselves to the history of people and what kind of experiences they had prior and how they persevered through that. So
Mm-hmm.
those are two kind of things, as far as the future or right present, right now, future, and then also the past, learning from those, from all those angles. But if that
So
makes
you,
sense.
yeah, it does. Are you thinking like biracial biography?
Essentially, yeah, and that's kind of the thing with like my channel. I call the series Mulatto Icons. So I definitely like to pick kind of historical figures, and I like to kind of dig into their history and explain to the audience kind of the history. I did one of Jerry John Rawlins, who was a president of Ghana. So I kind of went over him.
Phi Beta Sigma. He's a Sigma.
Was
I
he
think that.
he was a
Uh,
fraternity guy? Okay,
yeah, Phi Beta Sigma. I think it was Langston. He went to an HBCU in the United States,
okay.
and then went back and became a president of Ghana. There's a correlated history there. I interrupted you, Mulatto. Tidbit trivia.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, no, I didn't know that history about him. But I know Kwame Nkrumah, who was like the founder of Ghana, essentially the first president, I should say. He went to Lincoln University in
No, no,
Philadelphia.
I stand corrected. I'm sorry, Mulatto. No, no, he's the one that went to an HBCU
Yeah,
and
Lincoln.
Phi
Yeah,
Beta
yeah.
Sigma. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
he was like essentially like the first president of Ghana. So yeah, yeah, definitely. I covered that in the video. I misquote though. I think I said Brown University, but I put a comment in the video. I meant to say Lincoln, which is HBCU. Yeah, because Brown is I think it's a Jesuit university or something for
Mm-hmm.
law. But yeah, that's what I kind of the core focus I think for my channel. Obviously, education advocacy, but definitely kind of history. I want to pull
Mm-hmm.
in more history for that. I think that's essential. A lot of us don't, we're unaware of our history. It's kind of hidden from us. I feel like in a lot of ways, it's what people will refer to it as being blackwashed. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, people like W.E.B. Du Bois or Frederick Douglass or other historical, mulatto or biracial kind of figures in history are kind of thrown into the kind of black monolith when, there are some kind of differences, I guess I could say, that I kind of want to highlight as well to the audience, specifically those who are biracial, black and white,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of just have some pride in themselves and understand who they are and looking at the history and then of course applying that to themselves currently and then moving forward in the future. But ultimately, what I really am pushing for and advocating for is our kind of our own spaces, right? I feel like we spend a lot of time trying to fit in to other people's spaces. I think it's
Hmm.
time now. We're at a moment now where we need to develop our own spaces. So I definitely really appreciate the work and the expertise that you bring, especially with your 9 criteria, because I definitely want to build upon that. So I did a few videos of the name designation portion. So I'm going into number 2
Hmm.
um, this following week, essentially for the significant mass. So
Ah.
I want to cover a little more about the developments that you've made, and I want to go into detail about that. I think that's going to be really good for the audience to learn more about where things are going, where things are heading. But yeah, I just wanted to jump up and kind of contribute today, and I say I appreciate your channel, and I'm definitely happy to see that your channel's growing, and I really wish your channel more success. You're doing an essential service for all of us here, so we're watching, we're listening, and thank you.
No, Mulatto, thank you so much. Do you have time for one more question from me?
Sure, sure.
Um, Jill had more to her question. Let's listen to them and honor people where they are. Yes, in order for this channel to have success, I think people are going to need to feel comfortable coming up, and sharing their story, their journey, whatever the case might be, in a way that is heard, is listened to, that is maybe some commentary from whatever the panel is. But I do want this to be a space where parents can talk about the joys and struggles of raising monolithic children or biracial children. And I'd really like the space to grow enough where there's both black and biracial voices here, that when a young person comes up and talks about their journey, there can be some co-signing, some encouragement, some guidance, some perspective offered. So that will be a goal, Dr. Went, of future growth. I don't think your view is outdated or situated in time, that is relevant to you, but I also know your work with black men and men of color is also related to your research as a practitioner. For those of you don't know, not only is Dr. Went a parent of biracial children, but she is an advocate, activist, and ardent worker on behalf of men of color development and growth. Always shout out to you, Dr. Went. Mulatto, let me ask you this, brother. Let me ask you this, and it's something I've struggled with, because I've often thought about biracial biographies, but I don't want to tell them in a way that is sort of in despite of a black monolith, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it
Do
makes
you
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, do you think a biracial kid can find both role modeling and story and example in just black and biracial historical figures, or is it necessary for the esteem to see it more proportionate or more distinctively biracial?
That's a tricky question. I don't know if I can answer that. I think the key thing is balance
Hmm.
for these biracial children, not only to see other, biracial historical icons and what they've contributed, because historically a lot of them have kind of they've used their kind of privilege, being biracial or half white, to kind of
Hmm.
help the black monolith. So like Frederick Douglass would be a great example of that, right? But I think kind of creating a balance, so drawing energy from both of the love sources, as you put it, so from their monolith from their father, monolith from their mother's side, so whether it be black
Hmm.
and white, drawing inspiration from both of those sides to create a story.
Hmm.
If that makes sense, I just think
No,
the balance is crucial.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would certainly agree. One thing I have heard is this sort of usury of black narratives, using biracial folks. I'm sure that's the case in some instance, as it is in all cultural groups. But do you not think there was an element of sort of cultural solidarity and participation that wasn't navigated by color differences, but it was more coherent by cause, commitment to cause, right? Did Du Bois and Frederick and Brunch and Charles Drew, which you bring up, and countless women of biracial or some multi-generational mix, do you think they
They're
were
good.
doing it out of some cultural proof or just commitment to a cause?
I think, yeah, that's an interesting point that you bring up. The commitment to a cause, I think, was essential because politically, the environment where the country was at back in that era,
Right, right.
right, and things are kind of they're a lot different. They're drastically different today. But yeah, I think that's definitely one of the major things is the cause component of what they decided to fight for.
Hmm.
And I just, I think today a lot of people are coming to the realization that there isn't this, the cause today is not the same as it was historically. And that's where it comes into the generational nuance. Like when I talk to you, coming out of the civil rights era and whatnot, and then where there was kind of a benefit, I guess you could say, being lighter skinned in the 80s,
Right.
etc. But the cause today essentially is not the same as it was prior generations. So that's where we find ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, Mulatto, that's the point exactly, right? Today is different than yesterday. So to take today's thesis and interpretation and then juxtapose it against the 19th century, that's where I'm sort of vacillating and struggling a little bit with, right? So because I do believe a part of a cultural affirmation will at one point want to reclaim its historical figures who share sort of a biracial, multi-generational heritage. I can understand that, but they lived in a time where if you were to ask them, maybe some, but I don't know if they had the same biracial struggle and nuance that today's generation has, and hence worked differently and for different reasons. And so to analyze a 21st century biracial journey to a 19th century one, and to make statements or commentary that makes sense today, and put that on a historical figure, and maybe you're not saying that, Mulatto. That I would need to think about that more. Huh.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, that's what we're all kind of, doing in this
Mm-hmm.
moment is analyzing data, thinking about things. We're going to be here. We're growing, right? I'm going
Right.
to cover the significant mass. So, but yeah, it's been a real pleasure talking to you today. I just wanted to jump up and contribute and say thank you for the work you're doing, and I really like the growth of your channel.
Thank you, Mulatto. Truly appreciate you and your intellectual challenge and thoughts. Thank you so much, Mulatto.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Tuco, how are you, sir? It's definitely general. Feel free to build upon that a little bit more. We are getting close to the hour. I want to continue to welcome any comments or questions, or if anyone else wants to come up. This is a showcase. This is a feedback show. Subscribers only. The channel was initially two fathers and two sons, and we'll continue to do that when time permits. But I've kind of rolled solo dolo in some instances and have added more of a biracial bent to it. I think from this conversation, I'm hearing broadly that the interest is in raising Black and biracial children, with the occasional nuance of exploration of biracialness, which, to be true to the new audience, the 34,000 views of the one video and the subsequent 400 subscribers, to me, they've joined because they were interested in both affirming, critiquing, exploring, psychologically grappling with, having fun with it, recalling old, generational stories, but very much in the biracial space. This complements what I'm discovering out there in the YouTube streets, that there is an emerging group of young folks, born in 90s, 2000, whatever the case may be. And they're saying, hey, no, we got to honor both love sources in different ways than perhaps our parents and grandparents did. I representing the parent generation. So we'll continue to do that. Going forward, I would really like to think through how can I be more inviting in terms of offering a monologue or just having some live Q&As, but to get some more voices up here, to learn from each other, to understand a modern time, to give old man perspective when and how it makes sense. So if you all have some questions or want to come up, this would be the time to do it. D Chat, man, thank you for riding from the beginning. Dr. Went, number one ambassador, will not be unseated. Mulatto, thank you for all your continued participation. It's me. Good to meet you. I don't know if you've participated before, but you're more than welcome at any time. I do have an email that, should it make sense in some way to kind of send things my way to kind of think about building content around, or if you just have some behind the scene questions, or if you are a parent, that's interesting. Just to give you a little bit of demographic, most of the viewers per the analytics are women. It's 75 to 25% women. There's a very small percentage of 18 and up. The bulk of the viewers are 45 to 55 and 55 and up. That makes sense because that's my age set and my audience. And when we promoted it, we initially promoted it to our circles. make a note here. Anybody starting a YouTube channel, don't advertise it. Don't send it to your people because they'll like it because they love you, but they won't look at anything that you do. Right. But it's it's an age set, it's a grandparent age set, and it's a parent age set, and it's predominantly women. Most of the comments are coming from men, which is good. But there's a mother out there raising a biracial child who perhaps hasn't found a space to get in just yet. But I can promise you, in a moderator capacity, you will be honored, respected for your voice and for your questions or for your commentary. But you're the ones that I want to chop with. I want to talk to black moms. I want to talk to white moms. I want to talk to black dads, white dads. I want to talk to dads and moms in general to just understand what you're dealing with, raising these beautiful seeds, and offer perspective on whatever comments you have. I'll pick up on themes and threads in your comments and in your questions that I can then do some independent research and try to bring greater life to those questions, as well as identify some panelists out there to come in and bring some expertise. I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of work in the academic space, the faculty space, have quite a few interracial friends of mine who are in interracial situations, friends of mine who are certainly in monolithic situations. But let this be a community for engagement, learning, teaching, mutuality, and so on. Tuku, Tuko, hopefully I'm saying that right. I come from England, and there's been an exponential increase in mixed children. The vast majority tend to marry and cohabitate with white non-black. Yeah, there's a lot of racial nuance. America is not alone in its racial configuration in a modern era. Several videos I talk about outline why I think that is. I largely believe it's around financial aid, which then diversified college then diversified professional ranks then diversified urban centers. And when people of different backgrounds discover each other, once they get past disclosure and exoticism, they want to build. You can read between the lines. England is in a similar sense that it is a predominantly white historical city. It has a lot of migrants that come there. It doesn't have America's diversity pathway, but in many ways, America and England, for obviously historical reasons, have similar kinds of demographics. So I think the exponential increase you're seeing is proximity in relatively diverse nations. We certainly can chop up more about that. I don't know much about the international scene, overseas kind of experiences, but in other spaces I've been in, yeah, England definitely. And then I'm here also in Australia, a pretty large interracial community. So maybe I'll do some worldly data on interracial relationships, and as more interracial relationships increase, so do the babies. All right. Removing the biracial from the black identity is new because of social media and connection to Africa. Black has become more about appearing phonetically African, which causes conflict. Yeah. So okay, so it's me. I don't know how old you are, what generation you are, but removing the biracial from the black identity is new. Yeah, it's new. It's certainly new for me. It's certainly new for me. Did my volume change in my headphones? It changed. If someone could let me know if you've heard any difference in the volume. Because of social media, which has been a world changer, right? Some 20, 30 years ago, Earth birthed the new Earth. Earth birthed the new Earth, and it did not give any rules on how to exist in it. It elevated a characteristic of anonymity that none of us could precedent, and it has raised the level of speech and democracy to unprecedented levels. And there is no age restriction nor qualifications to enter. And so we have a vast array of multiple new voices, which in many ways is a beautiful thing, but in many ways is sort of weaponizing people who are dealing with complex subject matter before they've had the depth of knowledge to understand it. And a lot of that is playing itself out on continental politics, as well as local youth politics, and certainly relationship politics. In connection to Africa, black has become more about appearing phonetically African, which causes conflict. I'm not quite understanding that last sentence. It's me. Maybe you can drop dimes on me to give me a little bit more. All right. Some black people want light skinned children for the so called good hair and light colored eyes. It seems more of a fetish rather than love. Yeah, yeah. That's a common critique. And maybe it's a critique worthy of merit. But it says a whole lot, right, about love, black love, self-love, right? Which says a lot about one's self, one's upbringing, one's circumstances. It says a lot about society, about pressure, about hierarchy. It says a lot about history, right? That is a reality. And there is a certain kind of cultural healthiness that all of us need to be mindful of, particularly when we're raising our children. We need to think about cultural esteem when we're raising biracial children, and we need to think about cultural healthy esteem when we're raising monolithically black children. But yes, the behaviors of young adults and the behaviors of adults have a beginning. They have a foundation. And that foundation is the family, whether it's healthy or dysfunctional. That's the neighborhood, the community, the schools, whether it's healthy or dysfunctional. But it is also a modern manifestation of history. At least I believe that in terms of cause and effect. Where human beings are born to a table, they have a responsibility to push back from that table and move forward. But that table is ripe, that table is riddled with racial nuances that play themselves out in problematic ways sometimes. If you are moving towards marrying or loving a person of another culture, that's your business. I just hope that you do that out of love and not some kind of orchestrated purpose that speaks in any way negatively to your beautiful familial foundation, or to say it differently, your mama and your daddy. All right. Good vibes, hybrid vigor. I'm 40 and it would get funny looks if I said I wasn't black. Yeah, I was like known to be mixed, but it was still under the black classification. Yeah, brother, I feel the same way, despite as how light skinned I am. You know, I like to jokingly say I'm not the darkest brother in the world, but when I interface and interact, especially in, intimate kind of circles or where there's some tangential, familiarity, never felt pronounced other than black. I will admit, though, when I travel, and I'm fortunate enough to travel periodically through a speaking company I have, and there are times where I'll find myself in black spaces, and perhaps I'm a little hypersensitive to my lack of melanin. But in my social day-to-day circles, similar to you, not to put words in your mouth, but yeah, it would get funny looks, right? Although I think the 21st century is sort of changing. I even think black folks, once they really set back, especially older generation of black folks, have probably already had their intellectual thinking around the changing demographic, probably because they had to deal with it in their own homes. And so, maybe there'll be a time where you won't get a funny look when you declare your true sense of self and identity, whether that be racially mixed and culturally black or culturally biracial. Other questions, you guys, other questions. I don't want to overstay my welcome. This has been truly a wonderful feedback show. It's kind of affirmed some things I thought about coming in. This conversation here is kind of what I'm really aiming for. If someone wants to come up or elaborate on anything that you've talked about, feel free to do that. If you want to disagree or piggyback on something that's being said or introduce some new data, things that I have a perspective and opinion on, I'll share that. Things that I don't know or feel are out of my territory and out of my waters, I will say that as well. And perhaps someone in the chat box will have that insight, and then they can educate us all. All right, let me see. Tuko in the house. Are you familiar? Akala, who is British young man and both a rapper. If he's the Dread brother that was been on some channels, I think I might. Social commentator and writer. He wrote a book called Native Race, Class, and the Ruins of Empire. I believe I've seen that brother. Brilliant mind. If you are you recommending the book? For those listening in, that might be a good book if you're interested more in the subject matter, race and class and the ruins of empire. I imagine he's talking about that within a Britain kind of colonial perspective. If he has some videos that you want to maybe offer as a potential future show to kind of take a look back, pull and extract some questions. I would love that. Feel free to send them to the email, but I'm going to make note. I think I can go back here and look at the chat to capture these notes. Thank you so much, Tuko. Phonetically African means looking more black. It gets so sad that light-skinned monoracials are having negative experiences. Are they having negative experiences with black folks? Phonetically African meaning looking more black. Are they wanting to look more black? My bad. It's me. Maybe you had given some additional context that I just missed. But if your statement is it's so bad that light-skinned monoracial are having negative experiences, yes, it is absolutely bad. Assuming you're articulating that with their black peer counterparts. You know, one thing I think about the internet is that if you look back in the day when you had to deal with people face to face, civility was sort of underscored, particularly among boys, because there was always a low threshold for violence. As other channels have talked about, girls strike at reputation, men strike at respect dynamics, and there's a physicality element to it. But in neighborhoods and communities, you could have watchful elder eyes that could swoop in, redirect, re-educate, bring families together, and move towards harmony. But if you have unfettered, unregulated, no generational interaction in these YouTube streets, the thing has no ending point. It just escalates and escalates and escalates, and then it becomes contagious, and you have groupings and sides. And I think a lot of what I'm seeing when I researched this dynamic of black folks thinking biracial folks weren't black, and then the insurging biracial folks pushing back and saying we ain't black. I saw a lot of bantering and a lot of YouTube street dynamics that are just escalating, and I don't know to what end that will have, but it does not have the cycle of interaction where you have harmony, conflict, explosion, feelings hurt, disrespect, heightened escalation, but then you have intervention. And older, more reasoned minds get into the picture, calm things down, fill in gaps, and then eventually the community kind of comes back together. YouTube Streets doesn't have that cycle. And so you're absolutely right. It's bad that children in general go through some form of bullying, but this is a little bit different because it's based upon phenotype, which is something one cannot escape. Dr. Wynn says, thank you for the work you are doing. He has a channel on his same website you might find interesting. Perhaps you could interview him on your channel. Wow, that'd be dope. I'm sure his following is a little bigger. Brother, I'm writing down the name, Akala. I'll check that out. All right, I don't want to overstay my welcome. All right, my improvising with It's Me was somewhat in the ballpark. Definitely need YouTube elders. Yes. Jokingly, several folks from the community, Dr. Wynn, if you can believe it, they make reference to elder, right? They make reference to elder. I think in traditional African sense, you got to be a little bit over 60. I'm 54. I'm not quite there, but if I can play an old man elder role, again, not saying any expertise, but just life lived. Life lived as a 54-year-old kid born to a French European mother, a Black Creole father, created at a time where interracial was illegal, marriage was illegal in 17 states, born sort of in the Midwest Illinois area, traveled about through military kind of experiences, which is a relatively sheltered kind of environment, but decided to become out of the proverbial gray of identity and to land into a blackness primarily in the years of college, and has sort of moved through the world since. Gave me a lot of comfort, gave me a lot of purpose to understand the action of culture, which is to try to improve one's circumstances and situation. Blackness gave me an audience. It gave me data. It gave me something to be both proud of and to work seeking to improve upon. I did that largely through a fraternity, Black fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha, and subsequent career choices that put me in Black male development spaces. When we did that video, White Mothers and Their Biracial Black Sons, I had an awakening. I kind of got shook. My little cubicle of identity got shook, it got displaced. And so rather than just let it ride, I wanted to explore it more. I wanted to explore it more for this basic reason. As I close, you guys, as I close, I am close, AJ. Yeah, Doc. As I'm gonna leave this one up here. Definitely need YouTube elders. As I close, um, young people, parents, myself, my generation, especially with the newness of the resurgence of biracial, interracial marriages, then who will produce biracial children, always with a complementary mind and a companion mind for beautiful monolithic blackness. We all need to work diligently to ensure that we're raising healthy, grounded, solid, rooted, independent young people who can then grow up, join with another person, and produce the same in their children. We don't have that at significant numbers in the Black and biracial community. 51% of our babies are born to single parent homes. That's a problem when comparatively 25% of all other cultural groups are having single family situations. That impacts our community. It impacts how they come of age, how they see themselves, what they do in the society, who they marry, and then how they address the cycle of single parenting family or not. That's this space in J4 Conversations. Thank you guys so much for riding with me. If you see value in this, subscribers, thank you so much. If you see value in this, please invite someone to take a look at it and hit me up on email if there's something you want to explore personally or if there's something we can explore publicly here on the platform. One love, y'all. Thank you so much. We out, we out, we out.